Yo, what is up, everybody? We're going to take it from the top. Welcome to the Dream Huge podcast. Man, super excited for this one today. We love to share success stories from other huge dreamers, folks in the real estate business, entrepreneurs, movers, shakers, influencers, and more. And hopefully, these stories will help to motivate and inspire you to also dream huge, baby. And today, we are joined by my very special guest, Mark Gray, slanging deals every day. What's going on, Mark?
Good, Pete. Good. How are you?
Good. Excellent, man. Ready? It's been a minute since we've had a podcast, so I'm excited to be back. We have our very special guest, Elizabeth Bieniek, on the
You got it.
program.
You
How we
got it,
doing,
Pete.
Elizabeth?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you for your patience. Elizabeth Bieniek is an author, speaker, and consultant focused on good peopling. Interested to hear more about good peopling as the secret to exceptional execution. She is also the author of Cake on Tuesday. Check it out everywhere books are found. And you can also follow her on Instagram by the same, Cake on Tuesday, at Cake on Tuesday. So, Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Sure. I spent a couple decades in big tech in corporate America, and I found myself leading a team that we ended up building a internal startup inside of big tech and building a cutting edge technology that is something that's never been done before. The industry had never seen before. We didn't know if it was possible. I learned so much on that journey of working with people and motivating them to build an impossible goal that I end up leaving big tech and branching out on my own, and now spend my time consulting, speaking, writing, and helping other people do the same on their either intrapreneurial or entrepreneurial ventures.
Excellent. And your journey in big tech, and you had mentioned that you built something unique. What was it that you had built?
So it was called the WebEx Hologram. It was a end-to-end holographic collaboration system. So it was designed to enable, rather than you and I having a chat right here, we're on video and we're very much aware that you're there and I'm here. Could we be in the same space? Could we feel as if we're co-located, sharing the same physical space, even when we're geographically separated? So it was a technology that allowed you to put on a headset and then have someone not block out the physical world, but have a person added into your physical space. And so it could feel like you're right here in my space. We're having a chat in my office and we're together in the same space, having that conversation face to face.
Wow, excellent.
So like VR.
Not VR, actually. So
Okay.
That's a common misconception. VR is virtual reality, which is really, you're blocking out the physical world to have a virtual encounter with somebody. But you're very aware that I'm leaving my home office and I'm now entering this virtual space, and there Mark and Pete are there in this virtual space we're meeting. Augmented reality is interjecting virtual content into your physical space. So you can still see everything that's around you. You can still, interact with the real world. But now I can have not a virtual Pete and a virtual Mark, but a holographic image, a pretty photorealistic version of you interjected into my physical office. Yes.
I've seen that on Star Wars one time.
Exactly. That was all of my pitch decks in the beginning had Star Wars in it.
Nice. Obi-Wan's going to show up. Let's do that right now. Can you port us in?
We're at Riverside. I can't do this in Riverside.
Hey, we need to get a collab with Riverside. Like you said, Mark, they always have those updates. Next update we're going to get is going to be like live and in person holograms. That is sweet.
But at the time we did it, it was something that was entirely new. The world's seen holographic content before, but it's always been something done and recorded and playback. So when my team was taking this on, it was something we didn't know if we could do it in real time. Could we do this? It's never been done. So Cake on Tuesday, my book, is really about that whole journey of, can you lead a team to build something impossible and completely go through the unknown when every day you're facing something new? There is no playbook. You're figuring it out as you go.
Excellent, man. So is this something that's coming to market? Is it to market, or what does that look like?
It's available from my former company, Cisco. They offer WebEx Hologram. It moved from my team into the product team, and now it's part of their broader product suite.
Man, incredible. Did you have something to do with that Tupac hologram I saw rapping on stage? When you brought all these bringing back these dead artists to play with live artists.
I have no personal experience with Tupac, I'm afraid. That was not
Okay,
me.
just checking. Um, Man, what a crazy, but like you said, it's less about the tech, which is super crazy innovative. And it's
Yeah,
more about the people and driving that forward
the
and
tech is
giving
an awesome
them
story in and of itself, but
right.
Cake on Tuesday really came about from finishing that project and handing it off to the business unit, taking some time just personally to reflect on, well, it's a wild and crazy ride. I didn't necessarily set out to lead this team to build this project for that long. It ended up being a multi-year journey. And so I started really just kind of a postmortem for myself of thinking through like what worked, what didn't. If I had to do this again, what would I do? If I want to do a startup, what would I take from this experience and apply to that? And I started writing more and more things, and it slowly started turning to, like, I think there's a book here. Like, I think this would be really useful for somebody other than just my own personal notes, my notebook. And that's what it turned into. The voice is very much just me chatting. So it's like if we're sitting down over a cup of coffee and I'm saying, hey, I had this wild and crazy ride for 8 years. Let me tell you about it. And this is what I learned. And maybe if you want to do something similar, this can help you do it a little faster, a little easier. That's the tone of the book.
Yeah, learn from others' mistakes, those
Best way to
who
learn.
had trailblazed ahead of us, and apply that to your own journey, and then you get there faster.
Absolutely.
So,
Always the
what
best way to
are the
learn.
25 lessons? You don't have to give me all 25, but what are some of the big 25 lessons to unlocking corporate innovation?
Well, I can give you the high level breakdown. My 25, I chunked into 5 sections. And to give you an idea of just what it's like to start an innovative venture, from my perspective, the first 3 are all about starting. Because starting is so hard. It's the hardest part to overcome inertia, to get moving, get that ball rolling, start reducing friction, making things move smoother. So the first 3 are all about that. The 4th section is entitled Leading Through the Barren Middle. And that's about when things get rough, they're not exciting anymore, but you're not yet done. You don't have a goal, your end goal in sight yet. You're still trying to slog through that middle part. How do you motivate yourself? How do you motivate your team? How do you keep your goal in mind? And then the last section is titled Insights from the Rearview Mirror. And it's really those lessons you don't necessarily know when you're in them, but looking back in hindsight, you're like, okay, I see these pieces falling together. That's the lesson I was supposed to learn from it. Or this is the thread that binds through all of those. But I tried to keep them with just short, snappy titles. I think the one that probably gets the most reaction is I have one chapter titled Don't Be a Flat Squirrel. And it's really talking about being decisive. As a leader, you have to be decisive. And I referenced that Theodore Roosevelt quote about the best decision you can make is the right one. Next best is the wrong one. And the worst thing is no decision. And I just butchered that quote, I'm sure. But it was basically to the point of, don't waffle in decision making. If you're the leader, you have to be decisive. Even if it's not perfect, if it's not direct, action is always better than inaction. So make sure you're making a good decision, because you don't want to be that flat squirrel in the road.
Love it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's like when I'm conveying a message to my audience, they don't have to believe it, but I better believe it.
Yeah.
If I don't believe it, it is not going to convey.
Yes.
So yeah, make the decision one way or the other and convey that.
And that's one of the earlier chapters, is nobody cares until you make them. And that's very much about that. You have to believe first. Your first audience is you, and you have to be convinced, and this has to be 100%. This is the vision. This is where I'm going. I get this. But then you have to sell that vision to everybody, to your sponsors, to the team, to the people that are going to build it with you, eventually to your customers too, obviously, but conveying that vision to a way that people want to, not only do they get it, but they want to be a part of it.
Fantastic. What is good peopling?
This is a term, bad grammar, good peopling. This is a term that came out of just some coffee chats with my husband. I think anytime you share life with a person, you end up talking a lot about, your day to day, what's working, what's not. And we would end up talking about some of the challenges I would face at work or he would face at work. And it kind of came down to, we just found overall, like certain leaders were just really good at motivating their people, and other people that we interface with are just really not good at that, didn't have that skill, didn't see the value in it, didn't spend the time at. And we just shortcutted that to saying, now we talk about somebody or a certain situation and be like, yeah, that was just bad peopling. Or like another one, like, that was really good peopling. It was just meant a way to summarize are the leaders in this scenario, are they focused on the people in the equation and how to motivate those people and get the most out of those people and make sure those people are feeling fulfilled such that they want to take on that vision and run with it as their own? Or are they just being a jerk? And that was really the impetus for good peopling.
Gotcha. Sorry, Mark. Mark's a big AI guy, so AI hasn't completely taken over yet.
Nope.
We still have the good old people human element.
That's our whole business. I mean, all we're doing every day is peopling.
That's it. That's it. And that's why I say too, be wise in the career path that you choose, because at the end of the day, we just spend our time with people, right? So which type of people do you want to be spending your days with? And keep that in mind with whatever field that you choose to work in. So
Yeah, absolutely. And also, and Mark, I was just thinking, I work with somebody that I speak with fairly regularly, and he has this take on anytime he's communicating with any of the AI forms out there, he's always very polite and always asks like, "Hi, how you doing?" And like, "Oh, thank you so much for that." Because he's like, once the AI overlords take over the world, I want them to remember I was a good person.
that's
Yeah.
right. I have never cursed at Siri.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Well, maybe I
Little
have.
little voice inside you saying like, "Oh, this might come back to bite me someday."
That is funny. Um, Tell us a little bit about your story, Elizabeth. How did you get to where you are today?
I took the scenic route. Absolutely took the scenic route. My undergrad is in English, which is maybe not so surprising if I come on here saying I wrote a book. But if you look at everything that happened after that until now, it is a bit more surprising. I did an undergrad in English. I do have an MBA in business, but I very much went the business route, finance, operations, that whole route. I ended up falling into technology, I like to say. I didn't set out to do that. I married an engineer. I never thought I was going to be or work with or lead the engineers. But Cisco at the time was like any big company. There's a lot of other departments there. So I ended up going into the company in a non-engineering route, but really just coming from a place of curiosity. I love the question why, not to be a jerk, but to really understand like why do we do this? And I find a lot of times if you're the outsider coming in, sometimes the question why has just not been asked because there's too much assumption based on history, based on this is how my predecessor told me it was done, this is how we've always done it, whatever the case is, that people don't want to be the one to put their neck out and risk and ask, well, why? Could we do it differently? And so I think being the outsider coming into that environment, I did ask why a lot. And I started opening up opportunities to say, well, do you want to come into this project? Do you want to work on this? And a lot of whys later, I ended up finding myself in an organization that was encompassed some of the strategy team for the collaboration organization, which is where WebEx and all the video collaboration came out of. And I talk about in my book, I talk about picking a fight with my boss, that like this whole project came out because we had a fight over coffee. It was a very jovial fight, but I'm originally from upstate New York, so you can't really, sarcasm is a love language and you can't really take that away. So we were just having a chat over coffee and I was giving him a hard time about one of the teams on his org that was a strategy group, and they were doing this long range strategic plan. And it was looking about 3 years forward. And it was like this whole group of people in this big conference room in the corner of the room. Then they hadn't emerged for a week or more. I'm like, they're not talking to anybody. Like, that's not long range. It's not strategic. What do you call a long range strategic plan? To make a long story short, he basically gave me some runway, said, if you think you can do better, show me. And that ended up giving me the opportunity to go outside, talk to all the startups, accelerators, incubators, everybody that was I was in Silicon Valley at the time. Everybody was in the Bay Area. Who's investing in what? What are those fringe technologies you're starting to see? That led me to the augmented reality space and seeing that as being hugely disruptive, and kept pulling that thread, did some presentations, was presented to our management team of like, this is an area we should care about, we should invest in. And it kind of came back with it, yeah, we should. Somebody should do something here. Nobody was standing up to do something. So I kept saying, well, maybe we should do this. Great. Who's going to do it? I guess I will. And a long story short, I ended up running the team that ended up building this. And that wasn't necessarily my goal to set out to do it, but it all came from that point of curiosity and saying why, and is there an opportunity for something more? But like I said earlier when we were chatting, after doing that for a while and bringing something really cool to the market, and to then pause and reflect. And now I really enjoy helping other people on that journey. I kind of had that point of reflection of, do I want to do this again here or elsewhere, or do I want to help other people do this? And that's the phase of my career I'm in right now. I want to help other people on that journey.
Love it. We say the more people that you help, the more successful that you will ultimately be. So I love that you are able to scale up with that. Elizabeth Bieniek is the author of Cake on Tuesday. She has also worked with Tupac, R2D2, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the holographic images that dance around in your
Don't
memory.
forget Yoda. Don't
And
forget
Yoda,
Yoda, my favorite.
which is amazing. Okay, so going back to that. So is there a special, like, I have not seen this technology. Is it you need to require special hardware? What does this
It does require an augmented reality headset, which is constantly changing. The technology there is getting less and less. I mean, pretty soon we're going to get to a pair of eyeglasses. We're almost there. It does require that, but then you basically just plug that into the WebEx Hologram system. That's all you need on your endpoint. So you can be at your home office, put on a headset, and you can be right there, Pete. I see you right there in my home space.
Have you guys listened to the recent Joe Rogan podcast with Mark Zuckerberg?
I haven't, but I've heard so much about it. I want to now.
They actually talk about this. He talks about this, to where it's eventually going to be glasses. Like, they already have it, but it's costs too much to make to actually mass scale it. But he said eventually it's going to be contact lens in your eye.
The technology has been around for a long time. It was used like almost 40 years ago in the military. It's not necessarily new tech. It's just new applications of the tech. And then, yes, how do you scale it, make it smaller, make it cheaper?
Yeah. It was a good one. You should listen to it.
Cool.
Get out. Okay. Closing thoughts. Elizabeth, anything you want to leave us with?
I think just opening up that whole realm of curiosity. A lot of times as we get older, we think like, yeah, curiosity is great when you're a kid. You can ask the dumb question, the stupid question, the why. And we start getting away from that. But realizing there's so much opportunity when you really tap into your inner child, get curious, and you start asking why from a point of really wanting to truly understand. It's amazing what doors that can open.
Yeah. Who's your book for? Like, who are you targeting for your book? Who's it going to help out the most?
Anybody that's really looking to shake things up. I do have a bit of a bias towards inside of large corporations. So the intrapreneur, if you will, versus the entrepreneur. That was who I wrote it for originally, because that was the space I was coming from. But the response I've gotten from it has been really big in the entrepreneurial community. So I think that goes back to the point of when you're talking about people and motivating groups of people to move forward and do amazing things together. It's very universal. It's very across industries. So that's something that everybody can relate to good peopling.
What a great term. This is new to me, actually. Entrepreneur. So just because you work for a Fortune 500 or some huge corporate giant doesn't mean that you can't have your own concepts and dreams and push those forward, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what entrepreneurship is, taking all the principles of entrepreneurship, but applying it inside of an organization.
Yes. I mean, and often you are surrounded by, top level talent, top level organization. It's all right there at your fingertips. So leverage that, leverage those relationships, and be an entrepreneur. I love it. I love it. Hey, man. Awesome job, Elizabeth Bieniek. Check out her book, Cake on Tuesday. Follow her on Instagram at Cake on Tuesday. And can't wait to read this one, man. Excited for it.
Thank you both.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Mark, closing thoughts.
Thank you. No, I loved it. It was a good conversation. I think she's got it was very inspirational on anybody can really go above and beyond and do anything.
That's right. Love it. And that's what this podcast is all about. The Dream Huge podcast. So, hey, guys, everybody, thank you for watching and listening to the Dream Huge podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, remember the rules. Work hard. Wait, get started. That's rule number 1. Work hard, never give up, and dream huge, baby. See you guys.